soon as the man would start making the move, they would start hearing tapping on the car, shaking of the car, lights, like eyes shining out the bushes, and like these shadows from the headlights of these enlarged heads, and these just weird, ominous, scary noises, like of chatter, but it didn't make sense. Like, it wasn't our spoken language. It was just like how animals communicate with sounds and stuff like that. This was a recurring thing for high schoolers out in the woods at this time.
Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Great Scott, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we are about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Down below, we'll have our banner at our various social media platforms and their outlets. Check those out. That'd be much, much appreciated. Hey guys, I got a great conversation for you today. I got a returning guest and a friend of mine. We've been on some adventures. We've been searching for the Squatch out in the Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. This man was featured in my my highlight reel, and he come down from the Midwest area and had some really cool experiences down in the woods, and so you saw him in some of those trailers. But I'd like to welcome back to the show for well, no, wait a minute. This is the first time you've been here, I believe. I've been on yours. This is your first time here, so welcome. First time, first of many, Riley from the Midwest Mythos. What's up, Riley? Well, with the stories now, were these like high-functioning, intelligent people? Like, could they have conversations like we are now, or was there like some speech impediment involved, supposedly, or some mental retardation? What was the mental state?
There was very much mental retardation in it a lot, and for the population, as far as sightings nowadays go, they're so inbred and stuff as well, just on top of the patient zeros already having medical conditions and stuff like that. I guarantee there was a couple of them that could speak and stuff, but others, no. But that's just how the spectrum of this stuff works. Mm. But as far as the legends and stuff go for nowadays, they've been so inbred now that it's just like feral people. And
Wrong Turn, like the movie Wrong Turn.
Yeah, but more impish almost, which we can get into that as well after some of these sightings. There's no names or stuff to these. Some of these are just stories people have personally told me. And like this big one, it's more of an idea, like a conglomeratory idea, a generalization is, one, being from the area, and two, I mentioned I have so many books on just like the local legends and stuff. There's so many, every town's got that make-out point place that the high schoolers go to get a little handsy away from everybody. Well, there's a place in Holland that's like that. And it's out in the woods. And so during like the 70s and 80s, the high schoolers would be going out to do what high schoolers do in a car that's hidden away. We'll keep it PG. Leave it to the imagination. And as they would go out there was a certain spot out there where as soon as the man would start making the move, they would start hearing tapping on the car, shaking of the car, lights, like eyes shining out the bushes, and like these shadows from the headlights of these enlarged heads and these just weird, ominous, scary noises like of chatter, but it didn't make sense. Like it wasn't our spoken language. It was just like how animals communicate with sounds and stuff like that. This was a recurring thing for high schoolers out in the woods at this time. And there was one dude, I don't have his name. He came out and said, "Oh, no, that was just me. I would go out there every weekend and make these noises and mess with these teenagers, but all the time for this 20, possibly even 30-year span, like you didn't have anything else to do with your life."
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, all right, maybe you did it a couple times. I'm not going to say you didn't, but every single time there's quite a few sightings of this stuff happening. So if that's what you want to dedicate, if he wanted to dedicate his whole life to hoaxing this and scaring high schoolers, props to him. You just made a local legend that's never going away. But the likelihood of that happening, to me, it just doesn't make sense that he did everything.
Right.
And one thing that a lot of people don't know about is there's a lot of really, 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 really rich people in this area that have homes. So you can drive out, you can get on the main roads and see like a couple $1 million homes, some mansions and stuff. Then there's these places called the fire lanes, and it's just a bunch of woods. It'll have a little sign, and then there's like gates and stuff. And if you get lucky enough to get one of the pins or something, or like if you're doing work on one of these dudes' houses, there's these multi-million-dollar houses all along the bluff of Lake Michigan and out in the woods. So people know about those, but you just can't see them because there's that much trees. So those are decently known, but then there's billion-dollar mansions almost that people don't know about that are hidden throughout the woods. And the only way to get there is helicopters or like an ATV or something like that hidden out there. And I know this because I know some really well-known carpenters and contractors from the area who have been asked to work on these houses. And one of them was telling me one time he was talking to the security because there's a tunnel out in one of them. And that's how you get to it, is you go through this old like drainage looking tunnel thing. And he said the security guard stands there, and when a sensor or something goes off and they see people, what he does is he starts blasting feral people noises through the tunnels to scare people away, to not get too close to these houses so people don't know where these houses are out there. So some people say, oh, well, then I've told a couple people about it, and they're like, oh, well, then that debunks the whole legend. These people are out there doing this. I'm like, well, that's present day. We'll even be generous and knock it back 30 years. What about everything that happened before that? Are these people just using the legends or to scare people away? Or, as we know in this community, and I don't know if this is going to get us in trouble for talking about, but we know the elites like to dabble in all sorts of rituals and witchcraft, which brings us to the second type of melonhead. And this is like me personally just saying there's two types. It's not talked about that way around here. That maybe they're not children and stuff that had these hydrocephalitis, or maybe what I'm about to talk to you is taking the form of what used to be there, or just like the mass consciousness of people to take form. But what if these billionaires and stuff are doing their rituals and summoning these creatures, these familiars, these imps that people talk about seeing? And this is what people are seeing throughout the woods. This is what's attacking people, scaring children, scaring adults, is these creatures, because the melonheads are just one of the many, 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 many things that are in this area of Michigan. We had the Dewey Lake Monster, huge Bigfoot sighting that has that was taking that. Like, people came all over from the country to come try to hunt this. There's, to this day, still a reward if anybody can bring it in. Very Sasquatch-like being. There's the giant UFO flight that happened in '94 where thousands upon thousands of people called reporting seeing this massive UFO fleet flying from Ludington all the way down to Michigan City, Indiana, basically. We got the Dog Man, the Manistee National Forest, all the high strangeness there, the Lake Michigan Triangle, man. There's so much paranormal, unknown, supernatural stuff in this area. It wouldn't surprise me if they were feeding off the energy of the place to summon these demons, is all it is.
Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide. With the price of eggs and bread slowly approaching a day's wages, it's more important than ever to secure the value of your dollar. One thing that has remained steady is gold and silver throughout the ages. Back in Roman times, a piece of gold would get you a toga. That's the equivalent of $3,000 today. That still remains true to this day. For a full suit, shoes, tie, you're looking at about $3,000. Because gold and silver holds its value. So if you're tired of watching the value of your dollar go down every single day, it's time to get off your hands and make a move. I've recently teamed with Cornerstone Asset and Metals. Reach out to those guys for all of your financial needs. It's time to trade in that forever devaluing dollar into hard assets that you can hold, like gold and silver. Be sure and check the link down in the description or the number on the screen. And hey, tell them Doc Brown sent you. It's like, it reminded me of like Bohemian Grove. You know how they had this secret mansion and estate out in the woods, and they had security to keep people away, and once a year or whatever, twice a year, I don't know how often they met, but every so often call people together and they would do these rituals and do all this kind of crazy stuff. So that's exactly what I thought about when you was talking about that, because what's the point of having this fancy house and compound in the middle of the woods with no roads to it to hide it, and then have like a tunnel that you got to go through to get to the place, and they have armed guards and security there to keep people away? What are they trying to hide? What's in there that they're trying to keep people away from? Or what's in there that they're trying to protect people from? Right. It could be the other way.
Well, and that could lead into one of the things I always talk about when I talk about the Lake Michigan Triangle, just because that place is a lot of people haven't heard about it, but it's worse than the Bermuda Triangle as far as like deaths, shipwrecks, airplanes going down. Outnumbers the Bermuda Triangle by so much. But I got numerous episodes on that on my podcast, so if people want to hear that, they can go check that out. But one of the things I always bring up is the area is just dark, man. It's really, really dark. Al Capone used to mob in Southwest Michigan. He would come from Chicago. Sorry, I got it scratched in my throat. He had bootleg stands next to, not too far away from where I grew up. I have family members that knew him. Old Scarface, man. And there's all kinds of human trafficking that comes from Chicago, goes all the way up the coast of Michigan, all through that basin over Indiana. So there's a trail. You're hitting Chicago, you're hitting Gary, Indiana. We all know how bad Gary is, even if you're not from this area. Everybody knows how awful Gary is. Then you're hitting Michigan City, Benton Harbor, man. Benton Harbor is a cesspool now, awful place. But it used to be people would come from all over the world to go there. They would have festivals. So, I
Well,
don't know.
so I know you said you didn't want to get into it too deep because you talk about it a lot, but I'm not familiar with that triangle.
All right.
Could you give me just like maybe one or two stories that stand out?
Yeah, give me half a second to get this pulled up. I'll tell you.
I've heard you kind of just generally speak about it, but I've not heard any of the details.
So I'm gonna hit you with one of the wildest ones. That I'll hit you with the story of Captain Donaire, and then let's see. I kind of already talked about the UFO flight a little bit. That's something that somebody can just look into. Then I'll talk about Northwest 2501 because that one people might be a little familiar with because it was on Josh Gates' Expedition Unknown for a whole episode. So people that are into that might know about that. So, Captain Donaire. This is the prime example of just the weirdness in the Lake Michigan Triangle. So, in April 28th, 1937, Great Lakes freighter, the O.S. McFarland, was making its way across Lake Michigan to its final destination in Port Washington, Wisconsin. So it was coming from Erie, Pennsylvania. You know, they're transporting 9,800 tons of coal. So Donor, he's a really well-respected captain. He's made this trip plenty of times. They're making their way through the Straits of Mackinac, and it's pretty. If you've never been up to the Upper Peninsula, across the Mackinac Bridge in the wintertime, yeah, I know it's April. That's still the winter in the UP. It ain't spring till June, but there's giant chunks of ice, man. There's ice break. They have to send icebreakers and stuff. It's pretty big. It's a 5-mile stretch, little pass, and it's dangerous, man. It gets nasty in there. Giant wind tunnel, too. Well, Donaire stayed up to get his crew through there because that's the most stressful part of the whole entire trip. So when he gets done with that, they're like, oh, we should make our port in a few hours. I'm going to go take a nap. So he went to the captain's quarters, began to take a nap. He told his first and second mates, hey, let's wake me up when we get about 45 minutes to an hour out. So I have time to wake up and be ready to do all the paperwork and all that good stuff. So Donaire retreats to his quarters. Time goes by, everything's going smooth. Well, first and second mate go beat on his door. Boom, 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 boom. No response. Boom, 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 boom. Captain, you in there? Boom, boom, boom. No response. So they go retrieve the secondary key. Man, I'm so sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
But
get you a drink.
Yeah, sorry. So they get the quartermaster key, pop it open. Nobody's in there. So they start going around there. They're asking the crew, hey, have you guys seen Captain? No. Nobody's seen him. So then they're like, maybe there was like a mutiny. You sure you didn't see anybody? No, nobody's seen him. The only way that he could have gotten out of there is a tiny little porthole. From everything I've read on it, dude, like it was a small porthole that nobody's really going to fit through unless you're like a real tiny dude, and Donaire wasn't small enough to fit through that porthole. So the whole crew starts to panic a little bit. They start searching head to toe everywhere. Where could he be? They can't find him. Well, there's been reports of strange lights and stuff along this path. All this kind of weird stuff, magnetic stuff going on. And they just can't find him. And they never do. They never find Captain Donaire. He just disappeared in thin air, out of nowhere.
With the door locked.
Door locked. No way to get out. and there was people working close enough to the door that they would have seen him coming out. Nope, he never came out. The dude just disappeared. Which
Great
is,
Scott.
yeah, it's unexplainable. It'd be different if it was like just like a regular worker or something like that. Oh, maybe he fell overboard, or maybe there was something going on. But the captain just escaping and jumping off for no reason.
Which I know where they were going. They didn't need roads. Right?
Yeah, right.
But for him to just disappear, dude.
Yeah.
Did that boat get up to 88 miles an hour?
I'm not quite sure. Maybe it did. Oh, but they sent out ships and all that looking for it. They waited for bodies to wash upon the shore. Nope, they never did.
So did they end up making their delivery like they needed to, just without their captain? He just disappeared in the thin air.
Yep, and then they all got had to go into a private investigation kind of deal, because they thought the people on land thought they murdered him, and they would have had plenty of time for cleanup and all that kind of stuff. But just with all the other weird stuff that happens here, it's in the Lake Michigan trial. It just makes sense that he could have just disappeared, and that's not a very common thing that you could say. That it just makes sense for a dude to disappear into thin air compared to over his crew killing him and throwing him overboard.
Hey, what is happening, my Promethean Knights? Hope you enjoyed that highlight reel. And hey, if you did, hey man, that's just the tip of the iceberg. If you want the full discussion, go down to the description, click the links for the Apple or Spotify, and get the full discussion. And hey, you're welcome.